Hey everyone, big win tonight for your Pittsburgh Penguins, 5-2 over the Vegas Golden Knights. I have a full game recap coming up for you all. Right after this drop, we're going to get into Valtteri Puustinen's debut and how good he looked. Another injury, of course, because, it is the Pittsburgh Penguins after all, and there always are going to be injuries. Mark Friedman's really good game, Brian Rust, and a whole lot more coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So the Penguins, they get that massive 5-2 win over the Golden Knights tonight, a Golden Knights team that has been really struggling. As they lost 3 in a row, I believe 9 of their last 13 now. This is a team that's only 2 points up on the Edmonton Oilers for the last playoffs. Well, one of the last playoff spots. They're third in the Pacific right now, but it may not stay that way for long. I'm going to mute the TV here because I don't need to hopefully have any background noise. Okay, that's all taken care of. But, the Penguins, overall tonight, this was a pretty solid performance. I think that's my main takeaway. The second period, it wasn't all there for sure. They were outskated pretty bad. They were outchanced pretty bad. High danger. Scoring, like any scoring chance that the Knights had, it basically tripled whatever the Penguins had. I'm looking at the natural stat trick right here. The Knights had 7 high danger chances in that second period compared to only 5 for the Penguins. It actually was 9-9 overall at 5v5. The Golden Knights only had 1 high danger chance in the third period. The Penguins were really good defensively in that third period. I'm sure Mike Sullivan must have said something to them in that intermission. But, of course, Mike Matheson gets us started with the scoring, comes back tonight, and man, has he been awesome this year. I know there's a lot of trade rumors going around, maybe the Penguins, dealing a defenseman to Vancouver. I think that's been, where the most smoke is. I'll get to maybe Ron Hextall's comments a little later on in this episode if I have time. But, what Matheson brings to the table, you can't deal him. I know his contract is not the greatest, but he's playing at a really high level this year. This is the best hockey I think I've ever seen him play, and I'm sure he would agree this is probably the best hockey he's played for his career. So why would you want to get rid of that? Outside of Chris Letang, he is their second best defenseman offensively, and he had a hell of a rip right there to open the scoring. And this is one of the biggest things here. The Penguins' depth scoring has really dried up as of late. That changed in a big way tonight. And the first person, of course, to start that off was Matheson. It was just a massive goal. He's been awesome all year, and he continued his very stellar season with that goal. Jeff Carter, he makes it 2-0. It's his first goal since Nam. Basically, he had, I believe, 2 goals in his last 23 games. I think the number was. He definitely was, his production was not where it was earlier in the year, but that was a big goal for him. There's a stat that I saw this morning from Adam Gretz, and it was interesting. You look at the shooting percentages overall combined of Brock McGinn, Evan Rodriguez, and Jeff Carter, and it was right around 5.7% combined for all 3 of those guys throughout their slumps right now. It is crazy how unlucky that is. And, a bounce like that Carter got tonight, that could be the bounce that really gets his scoring touch back. So it was really good to see him get back on the scoring board. Again, he hasn't been on there much lately. It's been a big problem for the Penguins. I touched on that, in one of my last episodes, and I've been talking about that a lot this last week of how, the first 30 to 35 games, the depth scoring was there. And Ron Hextall said that to the media today. We were one of the best teams in the league with our depth scoring. Since then, it's dropped off. And, they've surely noticed that, as the trade deadline, of course, is only 10 days away. But, it feels good, at least for a night, that Sidney Crosby and the usual suspects don't have to carry the load for the Penguins. Mark Friedman, he gets that third goal for Pittsburgh. That was his first goal of the year. And, he continues to impress me. I'm still not all the way there yet where I would be comfortable with him in a top 4 role. But if a bottom pairing defenseman was to go the other way in a trade, I would be comfortable with him stepping up in a bottom pairing role. People have been trying to argue, on social media and stuff and other platforms. Well, what if John Marino gets traded? Can Mark Friedman play those minutes? I'm not there yet. Though I know his sample size this year has been really freaking good. Again, I'm not really, I don't know. I want to see a little more from him before I can fully declare that, I'm comfortable with that. But just a hell of a rip past Laurent Brossoit. And, he continues to be awesome on a nightly basis. He's also saved another goal tonight. It was a really odd bounce off the end boards, came right back in front of Tristan Jarry. You see a lot of those, honestly, every week around a lot of NHL games. And, had Mark Friedman not cleared that puck, it was probably a free goal for Vegas there because Tristan was not back in the net yet. So really nice play by Friedman there. And, I continue, I probably said that about 5 times now. I continue to be impressed with him, to say the least. Brian Russ, he's going to keep making that money. His price tag only continues to go up. This is now his 3rd straight 20-goal season, a gorgeous goal on the power play. I thought the first Penguins power play tonight was not good. The zone entries were not there. They weren't setting it up, not getting the high danger scoring chances, just a total mess. Second one, much better, had some awesome puck movement. Brossoit had some nice saves. And then that last one was just, that was bread and butter for the Penguins. They were moving the puck along very well, setting up nicely. And then Brian Russ was able to finish the game off and make it 4-2 with a little less than 6 minutes left to play in the game. That was the dagger, as some other people call it. And then, Evan Rodriguez, he's able to get an empty net goal. I know, it's just an empty netter, but hey, maybe that's the goal that gets him going. So I know I basically kind of just recapped all 5 goals, and I don't usually do that on my episodes, but I think I just wanted to make the overall point that the depth scoring was back tonight, and it was back in a big way. The Penguins didn't need to have Sidney Crosby, put the team on his back. They don't need Jake Gensel to score every goal. They don't need Evgeny Malkin, to produce on every goal. It's great that Brian Rust obviously did, but they don't need him to do that every game as well. Same with even Chris Letang. And I thought, he was marvelous tonight in most instances, and, he didn't really need to have a lot of production too. So just a really sound win, underlying numbers wise, before I get to the next segment. The Penguins were out attempted. Vegas had 58% of those. Scoring chances, though, the Penguins had 52% of the scoring chances for, 50% for high danger. That was a clean split. Expected goals for, Vegas led the way a little bit, 51% compared to 48.6% for the Penguins. If we go to all situations, it's pretty close. Actually, Vegas had 52% of the shot attempts. The Penguins had 58% of the scoring chances. They also had more high danger chances, 60% of those actually, and they also had 60% of the expected goals when you factor power plays in and all that other stuff. So just again, a really sound performance tonight. They buzzed Vegas in the first period. That was probably one of their best periods they played all year. Followed it up with a really bad of a dud second period, and then the third period, just a defensive clinic. I thought Tristan had to make a couple of nice saves in that period, but overall the Penguins really tightened up in that third period. And, it shows it on the stat sheet. The Vegas Golden Knights only had 1 high danger chance for at all situations, not just 5-on-5. So job well done by the Penguins' defensive efforts in that period. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to get into Valtteri Puustinen, what I liked about him. Also going to get into some Teddy Blueger praise because you can't have enough of that. And of course, we're going to get into some Tristan Jarry talk a little bit later on, and listener takeaways before we get into maybe a small preview for the game against Carolina. I have not. The Penguins have played them twice already this year, so there probably won't need to be too much of a preview. But before I get to the rest of the show, this is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on all of my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right, thanks to Built Bar. Almost feels like it's not really a Built resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you are missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy. They're a marshmallow. They're not just a protein bar. They are a treat. Now, overall for Built Bars, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. And yes, those include Puffs. You can go to Built.com and scroll down to the macros chart. You will be blown away. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 4 grams net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Remember all the flavors. There's mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. Overall, at Built Bar, they are all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they do pull it off every single time. You can go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So starting this segment off, going to shout out Teddy Blueger. He was magnificent tonight. There was a late power play in the third period. Penguins up 3-2. Mark Friedman had just scored about a few minutes prior. This was the first one, first of back-to-back penalties that Pittsburgh took. And, very unorthodox because the Penguins are obviously the least penalized team, in the league. And, Vegas is, they're setting up, but, the Penguins are keeping it to the outside. A lot of that was because of Teddy Blueger, and you watched his work along the boards, just winning puck battles, forechecking the Golden Knights, puck carriers ferociously, especially Jack Eichel. I mean, Eichel was having, I think it was a handful for him to go against Blueger. And then Teddy's able to come down on a 2-on-1, shoot it, and then it almost goes in off of a bounce. I have no idea how it stayed out, but it's plays like that just showed to me, and I think a lot of you all too, just how good Teddy Blueger is. And that's what the Penguins were missing when he was out. At the end of the day, that's how good he is. And, it's the PK, for as good as it is a night and day difference when Blueger is on the ice versus when he's off the ice. And I thought just that play really stood out to me tonight. Overall, I'm going to change my webcam up here to make sure. Nope. There we go. That's the one I was using. For those that are on YouTube, I had the wrong light on my ring light. So this looks okay, much better. Anyways, just wanted to shout him out there. He was also playing really well with Brock McGinn and Zach Aston Reese tonight. Could have had a couple of goals, honestly, but he is just the perfect, 200-foot player. And I loved watching him, on the PK there. And then the second PK, Vegas couldn't get anything going. The Penguins penalty killers were just absolutely torching them to every loose puck, and Vegas couldn't even get set up in the Penguin zone. That's how good it was. Now, to the young kid, Valtteri Puustinen, just a really nice debut. If I can find the tweet here, overall, he looked pretty good tonight. So he had 10 minutes and 13 seconds. He was on the ice for 3 shot attempts, for 1 shot on goal, 2 scoring chances. Now, overall, he was on the ice for 2 goals for, no goals against. So a little nice plus-minus, shout out, +2 in his first game. 6 shot attempts for, 7 attempts against, but 71% of the expected goal share. That comes courtesy of Natural Stat Trick. I saw it first via Danny Shirey. Shout out to him. I'm going to hopefully have him on the podcast soon. Really nice debut for Valtteri Puustinen. Numbers aside, at least, he had a couple really nice looks tonight. I thought, on those looks, he was going to have his first NHL goal. It would have been the total Mark Donk effect, as a lot of the national hockey media and a lot of the other fans like to say for some other teams. Mike Sullivan, was even putting him on the second power play unit. Definitely was a little surprised there. I thought he would kind of maybe wait to do that just because the Penguins have a lot of options to put on that second power play unit. But, Sullivan's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to put him on there, see what he does. And he did not look out of place at all. Also had his first NHL point tonight. He had an assist on Jeff Carter's goal. I believe it was the secondary assist, and if I'm not mistaken. So just a really good performance. Actually, I am going to double check that stat. I don't want to be like, oh, well, I believe it is. I'm going to make sure that he had it. Yeah. Second assist, Brock McGinn was the one that had the breakaway, of course. Like I'm a complete moron and almost forgot that. And then Puustinen was actually the one that flipped it from the Penguins defensive zone to the offensive zone to spring McGinn. Was able to shoot on net, and then Carter was able to bury the rebound. So shout out to Puustinen, first NHL point, did not look out of place. I want to see more of this kid. I thought this was a really nice debut. Was also winning some puck battles, forechecking really well. Again, getting some good chances, playing fine defensively. And again, he had some nice ice time as well. So I'm sure he's going to be in the lineup on Sunday. I'll get to Brock McGinn's injury update here in just a second. But especially with that news, I think he's going to be in the lineup here. Moving forward a little bit, I'm not sure when Kasperi Kapanen is going to come back into the lineup. Who knows? I think at this point, I'm going back and forth. My Virginia Tech Hokies are playing the North Carolina Tar Heels right now, and VT really needs this win. So again, great debut from Puustinen tonight. Also, shout out Tristan Jarry. I did see a little bit of hate from him on social media. Well, I shouldn't say hate. Just that, maybe he's off his game a little bit still. In my opinion, at least, those 2 goals that Vegas scored, I'm not really going to blame Tristan that much. The first one, I didn't really like the Penguins' defensive effort there. Don't know what Marcus Pettersson was doing on the ice. He was kind of just flopping around like a fish. Sidney Crosby didn't really help matters by just standing next to Tristan and not really letting him see the puck. And then the second one, maybe he was a little too deep in the net there. He wasn't as aggressive, but I'm not really going to hit that too much on him. And wow, Virginia Tech's up 12 right now as I look over. So I'm not, again, I think it's totally fine. At least in my opinion, he was able to really shut the door after that. That's, I think, one of the most important things, at least for me, was that he was able to stop some really nice chances for the rest of the second period. Remember, Jonathan Marchessault had a breakaway. Jarry had a really nice save, a couple big saves in the third period. When he needed to be called upon, he slammed the door and showed again why he has been one of the best goaltenders in hockey this year. So shout out to him, especially. And now the injury update before we get to our commercial break. Brock McGinn was seen with a cast on his right arm. And oh my God, Virginia Tech up 15 right now. I'm getting so giddy. Just I'll talk about both of my teams right now. I'm so excited. But again, cast on his right arm. Per a couple of the Penguins media people, it looked like he blocked a shot. I didn't get a good look at it. I couldn't go back and find it, but it sounds like he blocked a shot on his right arm. And then when the Penguins were doing their Warrior helmet or whatever it is after the game, he was seen on a cast. Mike Sullivan said that he is week to week with that injury. I would assume it's maybe a sprained wrist, broken wrist, something like that. He's probably going to be out for at least a few weeks, if not a month. I don't know the full injury diagnosis, but when someone has a cast on that part of their hand or in wrist, usually it's, 3 to 4 weeks, hopefully it's not longer, but as always, it's a soul for a soul with the Penguins. It's just that's just how it is, at this point. But coming up in the next segment, we're going to get to your listener takeaways and maybe get to some of Ron Hextall's comments today. Before I get to that, though, it's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the #1 source for all of your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, welcome back to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow this show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So getting to a couple of the listener takeaways tonight. Alan T. Yoder says that was one of the top 3 crowds all season. Shout out to you for being there, Alan. Glad you obviously have season tickets. Hopefully I'll be able to come up there for a game and meet you and all the other fans of the show that hopefully come to the game as well. He said it was a different kind of energy in the building. Matheson, Carter, Friedman, Rodriguez, good start on the depth scoring. Pens need more Friday night home games. That was fun. Yeah, they don't really have a lot of Friday night home games, this year, but moving forward, I think they have a decent amount of Friday games on the schedule. Well, actually, I think I got some recency bias because they played Carolina last Friday. They have the Rangers in a couple weeks. Then they don't play Friday night until April 29th. That's the last game of the regular season. But they have a lot of Saturday night games coming up. So I almost made myself to be a complete idiot there. But yeah, moving forward, Alan, I do agree. Maybe there could be some more Friday night home games next season, but agree, big start on the depth scoring. That's exactly what they need. And hopefully it can carry over to Sunday's massive matchup against Carolina. And yes, I agree. 4-1-2-7-2-4 Pitt. Yeah, Puustinen looked pretty good. I really enjoyed his performance tonight. Now back to, so Ron Hextall spoke to the media this morning, and, he has the typical GM quote, I like our team. I know our depth scoring is not where we used to be. Do I have to make a deal? No. But if we were looking at needs for a team, I could say we could add a little bit more up front. Am I going to be pressured to make a deal? No, but obviously it's something that I'm going to be looking at. If something along comes that looks right, we're going to do it. And for some reason that got people mad. This is not Jim Rutherford here, people. I'll say that here, right for you all. This is not Mr. Jimmy Rutherford, who is going to come out and say what he's going to do and then go do it. Ron Hextall is going to play things very close to the vest. That's how he's always been. At the end of the day, that's how it is. We're going to have to see what happens here. I know there's been a lot of smoke with rumors about the Vancouver Canucks. I get it, but there's still 10 days. Maybe Hextall's looking at another option that we just haven't circled yet, or heck that I haven't even talked about on the show. So I have no problem, honestly, with what Ron Hextall said to the media today. Just basic GM speak. 10 days before the deadline, he's looking to add. He would like to, but he's not going to be pressured to do anything. Friedman went on the Jeff Merrick show. They both think that the Penguins are going to take a swing, and they both think that if the Penguins are going to do a deal, it's going to be a hockey deal. It's not going to be for a lot of futures, because they don't think the Penguins want to give up a lot of those. So that will be interesting. I would probably agree with that, but I'm not really sure which defenseman they would move at this point. To close things up for you all, I have a stat. So the Penguins are 6 games into this 9-game stretch against some of the best teams in the league. They are 4-1-1, have 9 out of a possible 12 points, and they have a point in at least 5 of those 6 games. Calls for a round of applause, if I do say so myself. This team is a contender. They are elite. They are that good. They're probably not up there with Colorado, Carolina, Florida. They're in that tier below, which is totally fine. But this team is really good, and they are proving it by beating some of the best teams in the league. They're back in action on Sunday. Carolina comes to town. It's going to be, I'm pretty sure, a pretty raucous crowd. And we'll have to see if the Penguins can avoid being swept by the Hurricanes this year. So I think I hit everything that I wanted to hit on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Just a really big win tonight. It looked like a nice crowd. Tristan Jarry was great. Puustinen looked really good. Chris Letang had a much better performance than he did on Tuesday against Florida. Defensively, it was a clinic in the third period. The depth scoring was back in a big way. And, I'll be curious to see if it carries over to Sunday against the Carolina Hurricanes. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Remember, follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter, LO_Penguins. And I'll be back with you all on Monday for a fresh new episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Have an amazing weekend.